So, Jason, our banks are not
Yes,
safe.
that's true.
Our phones are not safe.
I'm told that's true.
But what about our medical information? That, I assume, is kept out of reach of hackers, right? Well, not according to a report from a recent security conference in San Francisco. Joining us to talk about the state of hospital IT security is Ian Thompson from the Register. Welcome, Ian.
Hi there. How's it going, Megan?
It's going well. So
We're scared. That's how it's going. We're scared, man. Thanks.
So you just heard Avi Rubin talk. He's technical director of the Information Security Institute at the Johns Hopkins University, my alma mater. Tell us what he found when he examined the system security of 6 major U.S. East Coast hospitals.
Well, basically, it was an absolute nightmare. Now, this guy's gone over credit card companies. He's investigated car companies, a whole range of industries. And he said that without a doubt, it was the medical industry which was the absolute worst when it came to IT security. And some really egregious stuff out there. For example, there was one case where they had a room full of workstations for doctors. Now, the IT department had said that if you were logged into a workstation and nobody used it for an hour, then you automatically logged out. So they tasked a junior nurse whose one of their main jobs was to go around and shake the mouse and make sure that the passwords are re-input so that anybody could just walk in there and access the entire hospital's records. Another hospital had 8,000 of their staff members having complete access to their databases. Encryption was nowhere to be seen. There's a whole host of things, which is really quite worrying for anybody who has to deal with a medical professional on a day-to-day basis.
So what was the overall point of this talk? I mean, what is it that, about medical devices that, that we're trying to connect to the internet and how they're secure or not? What was the overall point of this talk that you heard?
Well, basically, none of it's secure. He was saying, okay, in terms of hospital IT systems, then, there are some serious shortfalls coming. But then another speaker was coming on talking about medical devices. And even there, the situation's bad. Now, we've known that some of these devices can be hackable for quite some time, but we didn't realize quite how bad the situation was. I mean, one pacemaker had a debug routine in there, which would allow somebody to wirelessly induce an irregular heartbeat, which was meant to be there as a test function. But if you're actually using one of those and somebody's got malicious intent, then that could be really quite serious. And device manufacturers, up until a couple of years ago, really had no concept of building security in their devices. And this wasn't Windows 95 levels of security. We're going back to DOS 2 on this one.
Wow. Is it kind of, at least partially, a matter of just the sheer fact that in a hospital setting, you need information fast, you need access to things fast. And, we all know that security is inconvenient. We know that it's necessary, but we also know that it's inconvenient, it slows you down. Like, I can totally understand the need for great security in this scenario, and obviously there needs to be a better devised security method for this environment. Maybe that's the lesson to be learned. But there's also a need to get at this information quickly when you're in a hospital environment.
Very much so, and that was something he highlighted. I mean, basically, doctors need to be able to get hold of this information quickly. Customers now increasingly need to be able to get hold of this information online because a lot of hospitals and medical practices are making records online for both to reassure the patient and also to speed up booking and medicine processes. So all this stuff has to be out there, but he's saying it's either unencrypted or it's encrypted in such a way that the keys are readily available.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got to basically, that's a wee bit of a problem, if you're looking at it from a security perspective. And also, doctors themselves are part of the problem. He said, the number one problem he listed was that doctors, from a doctor's perspective, the only thing that matters is keeping the patient alive.
Right.
Everything else can go hang. And they tend to have a bit of a God complex, he said, and they don't really like being told that they're not doing things correctly. And all this didn't really add up to a terrifically great environment when it comes to keeping your records secure.
Is this something we can probably improve on a lot in the next 5 years, or is this like a 25-year problem for medical security in general?
Actually, that was quite comforting. They did say that this is getting sorted very rapidly. And when Kevin Fu was saying that when he went round medical device manufacturers, they're actually building in security at a whiteboard stage. I mean, when you consider it took the medical industry 100 years just to accept that washing your hands after dealing with patients before going on to the next one might just reduce death rates a bit. It was actually quite encouraging, he said, that, give it 3 to 5 years and most of these problems, 90% of them will be sorted out. It's that 10% that's really going to take some time.
So in the meantime, we should just not get sick, I suppose.
Well, I thought that was the entire medical system, American medical
well,
system.
in that case, I'll just steady on then. Keep at it.
Well, it's like I come from a land with socialized medicine, and so it's not such an issue back home. But here, most of the best advice anyone seems to get about the American medical system is don't get sick, or if you do, die quickly before the bills mount up.
Good to know.
Yeah. Well, okay. So yes, the goal of the doctor is don't let the patient die, right? But when we think about the medical industry now, I think about like people being like doctors and the whole system being really concerned with the legal aspects of things. Like, they're going to do this because it's legal. They're not going to share this with you because it's illegal. And this seems like there's a lot of things that are not legal with the way that they're treating our information. Is that just that there is no law? That's kind of the Wild West when we think about that?
It's not quite the Wild West. I mean, there are certain privacy situations. I mean, with the HIPAA legislation that have to be taken into account. But it's a question of that's purely on the medical records. I mean, there's an awful lot more to it. For example, he came across one large, virtually empty room with just a workstation churning out CDs in there. He asked the administrator, "Well, what is this room?" And he said, "Well, we used to store X-rays there, but we don't use film X-rays anymore. So now we've just got this computer, and it burns CDs with your X-ray on, which are given to patients and doctors." Now, he examined one of these CDs, and it was a Windows CD with the X-ray on, but with software on there, which automatically, which interacted with Windows to auto-run the minute you put it into an optical drive. Now, if you could get malware onto that system, you're then basically spamming malware out to every doctor and patient who picks up a disc. And it's like a typhoid Mary for malware in hospitals. It would just spread around the nation very, very quickly. It's basic security practices that are being ignored, and I don't think are covered in legislation, no.
But you do think it's getting better?
Yes, definitely getting better, slowly but surely. I mean, basically, medical device manufacturers didn't even consider security 10 years ago when they were coming up with stuff. And even recently, as we saw with the case of one pump that was found to have some serious vulnerabilities in it, it was a year before the manufacturer actually got round to fixing it. Now, with the flood of bad headlines and the flood of bad press that goes with that, medical device manufacturers are very, very keen to get this sorted out because nothing kills your market like the knowledge that their product could actually kill you. So they are getting, a handle on this, but it just, with the lead times involved in new medical equipment, then it can get very difficult. I mean, he found one MRI machine which was running Windows 95 and said, well, why don't you just upgrade this to an operating system that works? He said, well, we could, but then we'd have to buy new magnets for the MRI scanner, and it's probably just cheaper to keep it going this way. So you've got long lead times and long lifetimes for the products involved.
And a lot of interdependencies, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.